Hello, guys, welcome to this podcast, Everyday Talkies, which ironically does not come out daily. I am Anshul and I talk about random things to random people, majorly about life, perspectives, and thinking process. It's like an interview, or let's say more of a conversation with one or two guests about random topics that interest us. To be really honest, it's just a way to reduce my inhibitions in talking to people. So come join me and enjoy. Hello, guys, welcome to the new episode of Everyday Trekkies. Today, we bring you the fourth episode from Lower Decks called Moist Vessel. Now, before we proceed with our regular discussion and our review for the episode, why don't we, as we decided in the last episode, read the small excerpt from IMDb, which basically tells what the episode is about, and see if it justifies what the episode is. Yeah. Captain Freeman seeks the ultimate payback after Mariner blatantly disrespects her in front of the crew. A well-meaning Tendi accidentally messes up a lieutenant's attempt at spiritual ascension and tries to make it right. This two-line description of the episode is why you should watch the episode and not read IMDb.
Well, yeah, obviously, but I guess it's also it's a fine summary, I think.
The first question as we go, what are your initial impressions like and how do you rate it compared to the other episodes? First, I'll go because I absolutely loved it and I think it ranks first from the other four episodes that I saw. What about you?
Good that you went first because I thought this episode was fine. I mean, it's probably my least favorite of the four yet.
Oh, okay. There are two different opinions. This would be fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe because I watched it in two parts and I don't know, just the circumstances of it might be, but the first half of the episode really dragged for me. I like the second half, after, the whole accident happens.
Yeah, I was saying that why did I like this episode so much? Because as you already know, Pushkar, that, I'm interested about these concepts, these weird sci-fi concepts when they are introduced in this episode. So when they started with generational ship idea, where it was a ship from some old species who had material that they could transform inert matter to organic matter and terraforming planets as they go, and the aliens were mummified in the ship. So I liked that whole concept. I was loving where it was going. I expected it to go more into that area, but then again it's Lower Decks, and it is not a TNG episode, so the episode will not be about the generational ship.
It's pretty much the exact same plot of Wrath of Khan, which is also about people mummified in space, and you have this device which is like basically the Genesis device that can turn inorganic material into organic. I mean, they slide into it pretty heavily. They basically say that this is used to terraform planets, and which is basically what the Genesis device is. So I was like, yeah, this is like a good nod to the Wrath of Khan. But then also one of my weird gripes with this whole thing was if it's making organic material out of inorganic stuff, why is it making rocks?
Yes, that was something weird, as we progressed into the episode. But again, I don't know, probably you need rocks to grow in organic materials, so probably it's making the foundations of it. You never know with these, when I started watching Lower Decks, from the very first episode, I threw some of my logic out.
No, it's true. I mean, I've never been that kind of guy Star Trek has to be scientifically accurate. But this just seemed to be just a weirdly, I mean, it's fine. It doesn't really weigh on that episode that much, except for maybe having to find a pointier rock. But
yeah.
So I really like the opening scene where there's the mission briefing going on and Mariner just starts yawning in between. The yawning is basically she's trying to undermine her mother, Captain Freeman. So I really liked that part. And after that, I think the episode for me started to drag when she finally gets promoted, which was a fun idea. The biggest fear Mariner has is having responsibility or having been promoted to do an actual job, And yeah, I liked some of the stuff they had in it, executive poker was a really fun joke
yeah.
that they did, which is something that they used to do in TNG all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, I was just like, really, okay, this is fine. Like, Mariner hates the job, we get it. Like, let's just get it moving. It wasn't until, the whole accident happens and both the ships, start terraforming. That is when, the plot kind of kicked in for me. And I was sad to see that Boimler had absolutely nothing to do in this episode. Initially, I had thought it showed some promise when, Boimler is like, you got something by doing the absolute worst things. And then he starts to have this realization that, maybe they like it when you do a bad job. And then he does that one thing where he spills coffee on Ransom, and that's it. Boimler is just sort of gone for the rest of the episode. That's a lot of lost potential, which I don't blame the show for it. I just think this episode would have worked a lot better if it was maybe like a 40-minute episode instead of a 20-minute episode, because they really had to jam in a lot of stuff. I mean, Rutherford was basically not there at all. His best thing was he was excited about pudding. That was like it, which is fine because he had like an episode. And I like that Tendi was the main focus of this episode in the B plot. Basically, she's super nice and she wants everyone to like her. She first of all ruins the ascension of this one Starfleet officer, and so she's going around trying to fix it, and how that turns out in the end, that was fun.
I liked the whole exploration of the concept between Mariner and her mother, Captain Freeman. So, that was something which was new, which was explored, and it had its ups and downs, but I really liked that idea. Second of all, which I really liked the concept of ascension, but then I was wondering, like, how common is ascension in Star Trek? Like, this has hardly been done, like this concept. I've never seen in any episode where a human or any of the planet is casually ascending. Like you see with some non-corporeal beings already, or probably, as they mentioned, Q and Traveler and all of that, but we have never seen this as a regular episode. And when the character comes in and says that he's the ascension guy who was faking it all along and so casually ascends, I found it a bit weird. It's funny, it's a new concept, I understand.
I saw where that was going when he said that, he was just faking it, and then he has to basically sacrifice himself for Tendi. I was like, yeah, this guy's gonna ascend, no doubt about it. That seems like a Star Trek thing, because like these things are happening all the time, especially like if you watch DS9 had a lot of this weird spiritual shit with the prophets and everything.
But you never had ascension as such, right? You mean you are transforming your body to a non-corporeal state? The end scene where when he was ascending, he saw a panda and all of that. It was koala bear,
yeah.
And it was so funny.
Yeah, they made a Hitchhiker's reference, which was like, the secret to life is, and he just ascends.
Yeah, I wish he would have just said 42 and ascended. That's it.
I thought for a second he might say 42, but then that would have been too on the nose. But yeah, that was really good. No, what you said about Mariner and her mother, them having to, confront each other about their feelings, that was, I think, really well done. And the writing was really on point, like how a mother-daughter relationship can be, like, when mothers can be overbearing, or mothers can, constantly criticize their daughters, because, they want their daughter to be the best, but it doesn't necessarily come off that way. So that was like a really good interaction that they had while they were stuck in the rock cave thingy, and they had to like basically save the ship by themselves. I really like that aspect. And I also like they have this sweet moment where they kind of reconcile, but then Freeman goes like, you can be my first officer and you'll be my side all the time, and we'll do this, we'll do that. You can see just like on Mariner's face the realization that she absolutely does not want this, and so she like deliberately gets herself demoted. That was really good.
Yeah, but sorry to be a nitpicky here, there were 2-3 things which I recalled while I was watching the episode, and even in the last episode. Do you remember in TNG when Riker used to say that the first officer is responsible for the crew?
Yeah,
like the crew rotations and the crew assignment the promotions and all of that, which was heavily disregarded in the last episode as well as in this episode, where the captain is taking all the calls and there's weird promotions directly from ensign to lieutenant. What is happening, nobody knows. But yeah, leaving that aside, we can give some leeway there. The second weird thing is, I never expected, again, like this comes back from the first episode, that Star Trek, the ship captains, to be jealous or envious of each other, because humans have ascended to that level that these petty emotions are not a part of their life, where they're fighting which ship should be ahead while pulling the generation ship. Like, that's a weird thing. I know they had to do something to pull the plot forward, but again, this was a very poor method of just doing it, I feel.
They kind of get away with it because the captain is from that one species we saw in that TNG episode, who are like really, particular and really like arrogant. I don't remember exactly which episode but it was, but his species is kind of known to be like a prickly kind of people, So I think that way they can kind of get away with it. And also the fact that lower decks, so kind of everybody sucks. I like the fact that Tendi kind of gets to do more in this episode. I really like her character. I like her optimism. I like her overexcitedness. She's willing to take personal leave to just help this guy that she barely knows. And even though it's because of this reason that she wants everybody to like them, I like that she comes at it from a very hopeful and a very positive kind of view. I like the fact that she saves him when they're about to die underwater, and she's like, you saved my life, I saved your life, we're best friends now. So I like all that stuff.
There's one thing regarding Tendi, like regarding that, they played on her character that she wants everybody to like her, and then it reminded me that she's from Orion. So Orion, people from Orion have this. I don't know which it was original series or I don't even remember which.
It's probably original series.
So from people from Orion, they give off this pheromones that everybody likes them in general. So I think it comes off from there that because she's from Orion and everybody in general likes her. So if somebody does not like her, it really, really affects her. It's like, Klingons are angry from the beginning and things like that. Yeah. So her species has that trope. It's a good thing to explore, and the way she, as you mentioned, all the things she does to help that person, that was actually good to see.
That's a really good point. I wasn't even thinking of that, so that's really good. Okay, one of my favorite things in the episode was when Ransom, like when they assign Mariner to do all these terrible jobs, the stuff that's like taking carbon off the carbon filter. That's Klingon prison stuff, which is like a really fun nod. Jack Ransom basically says that she's finding little ways to inject joy into otherwise horrible tasks, which I think is just generally a good message that people can, learn from, and people can follow, that whatever job you might have, however dull or however horrible or however shit it might seem, you can still find little ways to inject joy in it. So I liked Mariner's attitude in that. Yeah, that was one of probably my favorite moment of the show.
No, I agree absolutely, because I thought about a bit when you said in the last episode that how even in Lower Decks you could see that in each episode they leave these small messages in all the 3 episodes. As much as Lower Decks is not Star Trek, but it is Star Trek. You see these small messages coming off.
I would actually argue that it is the most Star Trek, because traditionally, if you think, Star Trek is not perfect. Like, even though it is about a perfect society, Star Trek itself has been far from perfect. But even though it is far from perfect, even though it has flaws, even though it has even like continuity issues, and even like, you have this perfect society, but then in DS9 you show so much discord and conflict, and the same in like Discovery. So Star Trek itself isn't perfect, but there is still admirable stuff in all of it. Every Star Trek show, every episode, there is something they strive for. There is something the episodes are trying to be about that you can learn from.
Absolutely.
So I think in that way, Lower Decks is the most Star Trek-y of the Star Treks.
That makes sense. I could still give Discovery a leeway because it was before the original series time and all of that. But DS9 was heavily conflicted, and with the development of Marquis and all of that, you could see that
Section 31
Marquis and all of that. So you could see how the Star Trek universe, howsoever ideal it is portrayed, the show would not run if there was no conflict, right? So it would not have been that famous. So obviously they had to build something. So it's quite interesting.
If you keep a thing going long enough, it has to change, because as Captain Kirk said, change is the very nature of, very essence of life, or something like that. Today's Star Trek being imperfect, but also striving for this kind of amazing, these positive messages.
Well, I said I liked the episode so much, but probably it's just my bias towards when so much content is driven into one episode. It's bad, but I look for more and more content, and this episode was so much stuffed. As you rightly mentioned, that it should be a 40-minute episode to explore it very well. Probably that was the reason why I loved it so much. But if I could think of a scene which I liked the most, probably I think my excitement towards the Ascension moment would be it, because as I mentioned earlier,
the universe is on a koala's back. Why is the koala smiling?
The entire monologue that he said, that I'm everywhere, I'm here, I'm there, and why is the koala smiling, I'm the koala's back, and then the secret of life is, like, if it would have just ended with 42, I would have just jumped out of my seat. No doubt about that. So that was a fun bit. So I really liked that scene.
I think for me, this kind of episode kind of became a little dull because it was sandwiched in between 2 other things that I really loved. I watched this after watching the new Phineas and Ferb movie, which was absolutely beautiful, which was also like a very sci-fi movie. It was riffing on Hitchhiker's Guide and Star Trek. Like, it has like a legit Star Trek parody in it. If anybody is interested, go watch the new Phineas and Ferb movie. It is excellent. And then I watched Lower Decks, again watched the new Bill and Ted movie, which was also very time travel-y sci-fi kind of thing, and also had a sweet message. So because it was kind of sandwiched between these two very positive, very emotional things, I guess this episode kind of did not stand out for me. But yeah, I generally liked it, and a show will always have a best episode and a worst episode. So maybe next week's episode will be like a lot better.
It basically tells us, like, people who do not know, we have very different views of assessing a movie series. Even though we like the same context, I would say that, sci-fi and all of that in general, but the looking glass is very different for both of us. Like, I'm very content driven and material driven, and you are more like how it is shot, how beautifully it is made, the direction and everything. So you look at all those aspects.
Yeah, I'm a bit more technical, you're a bit more into the actual content of the thing. So yeah, that's nice.
And probably it stems from the matter that you are into that field, like you have done some stuff regarding that area, so you know more about it. So probably the more and more knowledge you have, the more and more technical you get, the more and more tend to analyze it from different lenses. So that is why it comes, and it gives a nice perspective as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that can definitely sometimes hamper your simple enjoyment of a thing, which you have, which I really like.
Yeah, I think that was it for this episode, where we discussed the episode called Moist Vessel. A very weird choice of names, but yeah, it was a good one. And apparently the next episode's title has not come out yet, so we can't really tease anything. But let's see. Till then, thank you everybody for sticking around, and we'll come back next week with a new episode. Till then, thank you. Bye-bye.
Live long and prosper, sarcastically.
Wow. Wow. Guys, live long and prosper. Thank you to all the listeners. I'll catch up with you again soon with someone new and lots of interesting discussions. So, bye.